quick and easy. Do it straight from your computer or phone by uploading one of the pre-approved documents listed at metrotransit.org/tap along with a copy of your ID. They'll mail you a go-to card with a full year of discounted rides. For questions or translation help, call 612-373-3333. That's 612-373-3333.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis Air. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Support for Native Roots Radio comes from the Walker Arts Center. Visit during free Thursday nights. Every week from 5 to 9 p.m., there's something new to explore. Enjoy date-friendly events like artist talks, performances, and exhibition openings, or explore art making, open library hours, and exhibition tours. Settle into your weekend among community. Free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org. Again, that's walkerart.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. And thank you for your support.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, rain with temperatures around 54. Then Tuesday, rain tapers off with temperatures around 48. Celebrate the Thanksgiving season at Turkey Fest, taking place at Ferndale Markets on Farm Store in Cannon Falls, November 22nd through 27th. Their fresh, never frozen Thanksgiving turkeys remove hassles and can be picked up just days before your celebration. Visit ferndalemarket.com for more.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes. All right, Jay got this supported by JS Bean Factory, off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul. Only the good stuff keeps us awake.
Hey, later on in the show, we got William Mantyh on the University of Minnesota to address and discuss disparities and perspectives from our Native American communities in research for dementia. And that's really interesting, Haley. I never really thought about this, and I'm glad we're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about like not finding culturally specific resources, and this, well, I feel like we talk about that in like mental health, and we have Strong Hearts Native Helpline, which is like a domestic violence helpline. And we have NAC, which does dental and medical stuff. And we have Indian Health Board here in Minneapolis that does a wide array of things. But when we talk about, more specific diagnoses, such as like Alzheimer's or dementia, it could be really hard to find culturally specific care or a provider. That's American Indian. So
yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to like doing research for dementia and Alzheimer's, I guess like it's hard for people to even find studies or find statistics when it comes to American Indians.
Right, because
Yeah.
of the small percentage of people that we are, and we're
Right.
something else. And a lot of people's, if
Yeah.
people don't remember, we were a statistic called something else in a couple president polls ago or
I do
elections
remember that.
ago. Yeah, wow.
I know.
I got to get
So
my shirt out.
yeah, there you go. All your good t-shirts. Dr. Stately will be joining us for this conversation as well. Dr. Antony Stately of Native American Community Clinic. Yeah, so it's Native American Heritage Month. And this is actually, I learned about this Dr. Will Mantyh, who was doing research on Native American communities, specifically Ojibwe communities. And he kind of researched so I don't know how much you know about dementia, but apparently like visual hallucinations are common. Did you know that?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay.
And I don't know how accurate this is, but I also heard it's like another form of diabetes too, that they're saying that, I've just heard that, and we'll have to get it clarified by the doctors. But you know, you know what it says when you read something on Facebook or any social media.
Oh,
It's
geez.
like, don't believe half of what you read, and then it's signed by Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Something wild.
Have
like
you ever
that.
seen that?
No, not that specific one.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, got me twice. Yeah.
But
So that's questions we can ask, because it's one interesting thing too, Haley, I'm curious about, because of our lifespan is not that long as Native Americans, if it just hasn't been diagnosed because we don't live that long.
yeah, I think that was definitely a point in his study. I was kind of looking over his research articles, and yeah, it talked about like our lifespan being a lot shorter. And then I think there's also could be like a correlation between prolonged alcohol use and like early onset Alzheimer's or dementia from that as well. But specifically, he was doing research with Ojibwe cultures and going back to the visual hallucinations. You know, sometimes those are part of our spirituality. Like we talk about seeing dreams or having visions, like about healing, like the jingle dress, how the jingle dress was created came from a vision. So it's important to kind of address certain cultural ties like spirituality and how that differs to like a more clinical diagnosis such as Alzheimer's or dementia.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Because I've been in ceremonies and I've seen things, and I haven't drank in 40 years. So
Right.
it's a really interesting point that you make there too.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk to Will and Dr. Stately about it, and just want to shout out Happy Native American Heritage Month to everyone out there.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I saw some pictures that you were, I didn't see you doing any round dancing, but I saw you at the round dance.
Yeah. I did go to the round dance. That was who was that for? That was a round dance Saturday night at the Bell Museum in St. Paul.
Yeah, it was for Minnesota, University of Minnesota students put that on.
Yeah, the American Indian Student Cultural Center at the U of M.
Yeah.
They hosted a really beautiful round dance at the Bell Museum, and I had not been to like the new Bell Museum location in St. Paul. I guess I just been to the old one, like school field trips and stuff. But it was beautiful. Senator Mary Kunesh was there to support, along with Representatives Heather Keeler and Leish Kozlowski. Heather did drag me up and to do the Lily contest with her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was tons of fun.
I noticed too, you make your own ribbon skirts, correct?
I've made a couple so far,
Well,
but I do like to support other artists and
But you
buy.
wearing one that you made?
No, the one that I wore this weekend was made, I'm forgetting her first and last name, but it's Standing Bear Designs. I bought it at the Four Sisters Farmers Market.
Oh, because I know the one that you made, you had pockets in, and I saw that Representative Keeler had pockets in hers, and I went, oh, you probably are the only two out there supporting pockets in your ribbon dress.
There's a lot more than you would think, and I'm actually really
Ooh.
thankful that more artists are putting pockets in their ribbon skirts, because that's just like something I need to do with my hands at all times, or like put my phone in or put my wallet in, and don't have to carry around a purse or something. I just got those big old pockets in my ribbon skirt.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What did you do?
I can't wait until you figure out how to make me a few ribbon
shirts. Yeah. They had 2 contests. There was a best ribbon shirt and best ribbon skirt.
Oh.
And it was great inspiration. To create some other things and get some other shirts going or skirts.
Well,
People are
I'm
so creative.
I'm kind of down on the weather here. Today's the best I've felt in a couple of weeks, believe it or not. And last night, nobody really cares about this, but this is me talking to my niece, that I went to bed really early and I woke up feeling the best I have in a long time.
Hey, that's important. That's, that speaks volumes on what a good night's rest will do to you.
Yeah. Plus, it also speaks volumes that I run around a little too much.
Hey,
I gotta slow down a little bit.
Yeah, good to take a rest and get your energy back up for sure.
Yeah. Well, what else did you do this weekend? I know the round dance was happening, and also, we got some stuff coming up too here with the full moon coming this past weekend, or that came this past weekend.
Yeah, so I was kind of in debate with a other girlfriend of mine, and we were like, oh, well, there's, the full moon. I think it's the super beaver moon. And this is like the time of year where beavers start to make their winter lodges. But I know NAC, Native American Community Clinic, did their full moon ceremony last Friday. And I kind of noticed that the full moon peaked around Saturday. But the American Indian Family Center in St. Paul is doing their full moon ceremony tonight at Bellwyn. And I believe that started at 5.
Oh.
But it goes a few hours if you still want to make it over there.
Hey, that moon is huge too. I took a picture of it today on my walk. And,
beautiful.
It is beautiful.
That grandmother moon.
Hey, just one last thing too before we go to break. We got the snotty nose. Are you guys going to that?
The Snotty Nose Res Kids. I can't. It's my Gaga's birthday Thursday, but should be a fun show.
Take her along.
Yeah, it might be a little too rowdy and hip hoppy for Gaga, but
I know it'd be too loud for me because I'm old, but hey, I've gone to a lot of loud concerts. Now I'm getting fitted for a hearing aid. Hey, we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
See you in a bit.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Researchers across the country, including in your area, are conducting a study that can include you or people you know. The calcium and vasopressin following injury early resuscitation trial, or simply Cavalier, is a research study that will look at whether giving 2 different drugs, calcium, vasopressin, or both, early in the course of treatment would help severely injured patients that lose a lot of blood survive their injuries. To be included, a person must have trauma injuries that cause large amounts of blood loss and need to receive blood. Because treating traumatic injuries with blood loss is an emergency, there may not be time to give consent before giving the calcium, vasopressin, or both. Most people will be too severely injured to give informed consent, and families are usually not available in time. However, researchers will notify people enrolled and give them detailed information about the study as soon as possible after they arrive to the hospital. For more information or to opt out of this study, please visit their website at lightsnetwork.org/Cavalier or call their toll-free number at 1-800-664-0557.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we have Associate Professor William Mantyh on from the University of Minnesota to address and discuss some disparities and perspectives from our Native American communities in the research for dementia. I want to just say a big welcome and thank you so much, Will, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Oh, well, welcome. Hey, I got a few questions here, and Haley and I were talking a little bit before you came on how interesting this is. And I know I'd love you to tell us, what is Alzheimer's and what is dementia? What are the differences, if there's any, or if it's words or what? And again, welcome.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. Yeah, this is a really important question because even a lot of physicians still, it's a confusing term to say dementia and Alzheimer's disease because for the longest time they were used interchangeably. If you said someone had Alzheimer's, it was the same as saying someone had dementia. But from a terminology standpoint, you can think of dementia as an umbrella term. And so dementia is just a description that means that someone is no longer able to go through their day-to-day life on their own because of a memory and thinking problem. They now need help from, let's say, their loved ones or from an assisted living facility because, again, they don't have the memory or the functional status to get through their day-to-day life independently. And so you can imagine just dozens and dozens of things that can cause dementia. And Alzheimer's disease is the #1 cause of dementia in general in the United States. If you travel to different areas of the world, that might be different. For instance, head trauma may be the leading cause of dementia, or a bug that infects the brain, like malaria, could be the leading cause of dementia. So, dementia is a descriptive term, and Alzheimer's disease is the leading cause of it as far as we understand in the United States.
Wow. How can you detect it? How is it detected? I know with my father, it was really interesting. We thought he was slipping into Alzheimer's, and then when he took a test, it was amazing that he had like a lot of recall. Like I remember his doctor asking him to count 100 backwards by threes, and he could do it. And I don't have Alzheimer's or dementia. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, so it is very difficult to detect Alzheimer's disease or a lot of the other types of dementias out there, especially if they're in a very early stage. And I think that's why, someone like me has a job, is because if someone, let's say, is in a very advanced stage, they can't remember what they had for breakfast, they can't recognize their loved ones anymore, that's a stage where it becomes pretty obvious that someone has dementia. But let's say someone forgot where their car was parked. I do that sometimes, especially if you're using a parking garage that you use the same day every day, or you forget the name of someone you just met and you think, why did I forget that person's name? Again, that's stuff that happens to everyone, and it happens more and more often the older we get. So it becomes really hard to diagnose dementia in the earliest stages because those could be the same symptoms for someone who's developing those early signs of dementia. So there's a couple different things that we do to try to untangle what's going on. The first thing is really just taking a detailed history and trying to figure out, are there red flag signs? Certain red flag signs that we hear about is if someone's getting lost in their own neighborhood and really turned around to the point where they can't even navigate home again. That's something that even if you're having a bad day or an off day, you should still be able to do. Or someone who's asking the same question over and over and over again, even if they're given ample opportunity to listen to what the response is. So those are red flag symptoms that, in my mind, kind of tell me that we're not just dealing with normal aging. So once we kind of collect that history and we're worried about someone, We do more extensive cognitive testing, and these are things you probably have seen in the doctor's office where we have people copy complex geometric shapes, or we have them remember a list of different words. And if things are worrisome or even giving us any evidence that this still could be early stage neurodegenerative disease, and that's just a fancy term for dementia, we do a brain scan, and the brain scan can also clue us in as to whether an underlying dementia could be present based upon what we're seeing with the size of the brain. We know that most of these dementias actually shrink the size of the brain, so we can get important clues from the MRI scan. And then finally, there are blood tests. And we almost always perform these blood tests because things like vitamin deficiencies, if you get from, let's say, not eating the right diet, or hormone issues, so thyroid hormone, if you don't have enough thyroid hormone, that can look identical to Alzheimer's disease. So we test for things that can mimic these dementing illnesses with a blood test. So that's sort of the standard way that we evaluate for dementia. But one new thing that we can talk about more if you're interested are new blood tests. So there are new blood tests coming out for these dementias, Alzheimer's disease being a type of dementia that we have a very good blood test for now. And these are really revolutionizing our ability to diagnose the disease in an early stage because they're about 90 to 95% accurate in someone who is still in an early stage of Alzheimer's. So these blood tests are really helping out quite a bit. But yeah, so that's our general kind of overview of how we try to diagnose these diseases.
Hey, before I bring Dr. Stately on with us, I just have one question. Is there a cure, and is it hard to, I guess it's two questions. Is it hard to diagnose Native Americans because of our life expectancy? And by the way, welcome Dr. Stately, Native American Community Clinic, to join in on the conversation.
Yeah, so the question about what can be done about these dementing illnesses, the first thing is I always use the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can really intervene early on in someone's life with things like a healthy diet, with having access to educational opportunities, having a type of job where you're not dealing with chronic stress and all of the bad health consequences related to chronic stress. If you're getting regular exercise early on in your life, you can really make a big dent in your future risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, even for people who are genetically predisposed. And so prevention is really, I think, the most important thing. For people who, let's say, have Alzheimer's disease, we now have some drugs that can slow down the course of the disease, but these drugs are not great. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. These drugs have a lot of side effects, and they have overall modest benefits, and they only slow down the course of the disease. So they don't stop the disease in its tracks. Patients, unfortunately, can never expect to get better or get to where they were before, but it can slow down the progressive downward course of these diseases by a little bit. It's about anywhere from 25 to 35% slowing. But these drugs are very, very expensive. They require an IV chair to sit in and get the drug infused through a vein every 2 weeks. And they don't work very well in people who have other types of dementias. In fact, if you've got another type of dementia, let's say dementia caused by strokes or dementia caused by heart disease, this drug is just not going to work at all. So Alzheimer's disease is really the only disease that we have a therapy now that can slow down its course, whereas all the other dementias, really all we can do is try to support the patient the best we can with things like physical therapy and occupational therapy, and trying to have them eat a healthy diet and have access to exercise and proper caregiving, treating depression if that's there, treating anxiety if that's there. But we don't have an actual drug to go after those types of dementias yet. Again, it's an exciting area because we are learning more and more about these diseases, but we don't have a drug yet for those other types of dementias out there.
Interesting. Hey, we have Dr. Stately here, President and Executive Officer at Native American Community Clinic, and we're speaking with Dr. William Mantyh, Associate Professor at the University of Minnesota Medical School. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me into the conversation. I appreciate it. Hey, Will, how are you?
Good to see you again.
You as well. You as well. Yeah, it's been a few months. Yeah, I think one of the things I would wonder is like, so do the symptoms of dementia look differently for Ojibwe or Dakota people or indigenous people, I guess? like how the expression of it, are there cultural nuances you need to look for, and those kinds of things. Those would kind of be important things for us to talk about. And I'm not sure, we're almost at the top of the hour here. Yeah, bottom of the hour, whatever they call it. So.
Yeah, I'm realizing that I missed that second part of the question. Sorry about that. Yeah, so our group recently published a paper talking about the distinction between hallucinations, which are kind of pathologized, and thinking, oh, this person's just kind of seeing something that's not there. It's all in their head. It's just kind of, it's a psychiatric issue essentially.
Yep.
And distinguishing that from a normal cultural or a normal religious or spiritual experience. And so hallucinations are a pretty big deal in evaluating dementias, because certain types of dementias can lead to hallucinations more often than others. And so it can really clue you in as a doctor into what the underlying type of dementia is. And so when we ask our questions to our Ojibwe participants, are you having a vision of something that's not part of the material world? A substantial number said, yes, I have these spiritual experiences where I'm seeing something that's not part of the physical world. And a lot of physicians, if they would hear that, they would just say, oh, this is a hallucination, this person's having a psychiatric illness, and not think, oh, this is just a normal kind of spiritual occurrence. And I think, again, I'm definitely not an expert here, but there have, as you know, been instances in the past where everything associated with Native culture and Native spiritual practices has been pathologized and people put in insane asylums. And we want to obviously make sure that that's not the case and that people aren't being misdiagnosed either. So that is one thing in terms of the story that came up.
Yeah.
We're here with Dr. Stately and Dr. Mantyh. We're talking about Alzheimer's in the Native community. We'll be right back after this short break. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. Howl!
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Thinking about college? Consider checking out Minnesota Private Colleges. These 18 nonprofit institutions keep the focus on students with small classes and professors who will get to know you. You'll find students from all backgrounds, and no two colleges are alike. And when it comes to cost, they're more affordable than you think. Find the college that's right for you at mnprivatecolleges.org/possible. That's mnprivatecolleges.org/possible.
Support for Native Roots Radio comes from the Walker Art Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including Indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds, Cheyenne and Arapaho Nation, and Jin Demini, Ojibwe. Additionally, films screen in the cinema, and performances are shown on stage. Free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org. Again, that's walkerart.org.
It's the time of the year where we begin to see the snow fly. If your vehicle needs to get ready for the winter driving ahead, take it in for service at Rudy Luther Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota's service department is top-notch, no matter if you're looking for routine maintenance or bigger service. They're committed to providing you the care and expert service their loyal customers have come to trust. You can schedule an appointment at rudyluthertoyota.com and make sure to check out their website for the latest service specials. To schedule your service, head to rudyluthertoyota.com. That's rudyluthertoyota.com.
Hi, it's Angela Warner from Warner Stellian, and if you're like me, you've got a dozen things in your online shopping cart you're just waiting to buy. What if the price goes lower, or shouldn't I wait till Black Friday? Stop waiting. At Warner Stellian, we've got guaranteed Black Friday prices now. They won't go lower. So replace that almost broken dishwasher with free installation on select models, or upgrade to a bigger fridge with an exclusive $200 bonus and a faster stove for the holidays. Shop Black Friday prices now, guaranteed at warnerstellian.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, rain with temperatures around 54. Then Tuesday, rain tapers off with temperatures around 48. The music is still the hottest at Crooner's Supper Club in Fridley. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. View their upcoming music schedules and food menus at croonersloungemn.com.
Hi, this is Governor Walz. Thank you for listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Yes, they do. Hey, we have a really interesting show going on here. We're with Dr. Stately, President and Executive Officer at Native American Community Clinic, and we also have Dr. William Mantyh, Associate Professor at the University of Minnesota Medical School. Welcome back, you guys. And Dr. Stately, do you mind taking over here on some of the questions? This is really a great conversation you guys are having.
Sure, not at all. I appreciate it. So I hadn't had a chance to read your full article today because I actually just got done with a 3-hour medical appointment with my kid. It was really quite challenging for my day. However, so one of the things I was thinking is like how can you give us an understanding a little bit about like how much impact that Indigenous people or Native elders have with respect to this problem? Like how likely are they to get it? And what is one of the things I heard you mention in the first session, you were talking a little bit about how, like, you know, for a lot of the dimensions other than Alzheimer's specifically, there isn't any treatment that's curative or slows it down in its progression. And then you said prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And one of the things I'm wondering is, like, one of the things I always think about is like the earlier you catch something, the more opportunity you have to sort of treat it, slow it down, and manage it better. So having access to care is probably also really, you know, identifying it early, catching it early, and then having access to good resources to support. So kind of talk to us a little bit about what's available out there.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to hear about your kid. I hope that they're doing okay.
He's fine. He doesn't have dementia.
Yeah. So there was a recent publication that came out in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia, and it was a group out of Washington University. University of Washington. I shouldn't ever confuse them with their competitors. University of Washington. And they did, I think, the best job so far at looking at what are the rates of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And related dementias would be things like vascular dementia and other memory and thinking robbing disorders. And they showed that the rates in Native populations were higher than in other racial or ethnic categories in the United States, and were substantially higher. And again, don't quote me on this. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was something along the lines of 50% to even 100% higher than, let's say, the white population. So it wasn't just sort of a small statistically significant difference. You know, we're talking kind of a categorical difference. And a lot of that dementia was termed vascular dementia. And vascular dementia is just a fancy term for when the blood vessels in your brain start to peter out or get damaged. And the blood vessels in the brain are very important because every human has about 400 miles of blood vessels in your brain. So your brain just is coursing with blood vessels, and your brain is very, very thirsty from a blood standpoint. It needs a lot of oxygen and a lot of nutrients. And so when you start damaging those blood vessels from things like diabetes or high blood pressure, head trauma also damages those blood vessels, high cholesterol too. That produces a lot of wear and tear, and you have a long period of your life where your brain is just basically undergoing wear and tear. And that is a period when I think access to care and good care is extremely important. Going back to prevention being much more useful than addressing the issue after the horse is out of the barn already. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with you, Dr. Stately, that things like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, head trauma, those diseases of our blood vessels are happening for decades before the dementia shows up. And if we can get those under control in early life or midlife, we stand a much better chance of never developing dementia in the first place.
Got it. Is there any linkage to diet and dietary considerations?
Yeah, so there's more
environmental toxins, anything like that?
Yeah, one of the hardest parts about studying diet and environmental toxins is that there's just so many out there, and everyone has a different exposure to them. So running like a rigorous scientific experiment where you have, two humans, and the only difference between one of them is the one thing that you're kind of testing. Let's say you want to test to see if, higher intake of high fructose corn syrup, is detrimental to dementia risk. It's hard to test that because everyone eats a different amount, and some people have other components of their diet. So it's very hard to run like a good experiment. But at the same time, I think more and more data is coming out that ultra processed foods are not good for you, or foods with. I'm not an endocrinologist, so this is sort of the limits of my knowledge here. But with a high, what they call glycemic index, meaning that you take the food and you get just through the roof levels of blood sugar within minutes. That type of food is essentially not good for your overall heart and blood vessel health. And so having foods that takes longer to digest, where you have a slower release of sugar in your bloodstream, or foods that have, of course, other nutrients in them. Again, the ultra processed foods basically are just that. They're empty calories. They don't have really anything to accompany them that, normally fruits, vegetables, naturally occurring foods do have that help your overall health. So yeah, I think there's more and more data out there that, and food out of the ground is going to be better for you than something that you can't recognize anymore because it's been put through a machine and packaged.
Well, that's a really good segue into the next piece of this conversation, because I think one of the things that we recognize is that, like, we are moving in a lot of Indigenous communities, trying to reclaim our Indigenous foods, have more of those things involved in our diet, trying really hard to sort of kind of go back to the traditional ways we used to eat. And hopefully we'll start to see in a couple of generations, we'll start to see some of these things slow down a little bit that are related perhaps to sort of like food related illnesses. But one of the things that I know is that there's been a conversation happening about how dementia or Alzheimer's is considered like the fourth type of diabetes, right? People having these conversations. And so one of our listeners just asked the question, what is the relationship between diabetes and dementia or Alzheimer's? And so my first thought was like, you definitely get vascular degradation and all kinds of challenges with diabetes long term, specifically with like all those really high blood spikes and things like that. So there must be some type of relationship there. What's the science and evidence starting to tell us about this?
Yeah, so that term that Alzheimer's disease is sort of a different type of diabetes, it has a lot of validity. So there's actually a type of scan where we look to see if the brain is taking up blood sugar. And we know that people with Alzheimer's disease, actually their brain does not take up blood sugar as it should. And that's very similar to type 2 diabetes, where, let's say you're looking at your muscles, your muscles aren't taking sugar in as it should. That sugar is just floating around in your blood vessels, but it can't get to where it needs to go. So that happens in Alzheimer's disease. I think one of the big questions, though, is kind of the chicken or the egg. What's happening first? We know that there's a lot of things that go wrong in Alzheimer's disease. The ability to absorb sugar from the bloodstream is definitely one of them. But kind of an unanswered question is how much is that a cause of what's happening, as opposed to how much is that a byproduct or kind of an end product of what's happening. So that's a little bit uncertain still. But again, there's a lot of validity to that term, kind of a different type of diabetes, or type 3 diabetes, I've heard it called before. But the question specifically about how diabetes affects your risk for dementia, you pretty much summed it up perfectly. So type 2 diabetes does damage those blood vessels. Again, your blood vessels are not happy when there's very high levels of sugar. So those sugars actually change the composition of proteins that are in the blood vessels. And when that happens, the ability for blood to bring nutrients into the brain, to bring oxygen into the brain, to have the normal elasticity that your blood has with each heartbeat, that goes away with diabetes. And as I said, your blood vessel has 400 miles. I'm sorry, your brain has 400 miles of blood vessels, and really needs good blood vessels to feel healthy and to allow us to think and remember things well. So it's kind of this wear and tear process over time that again leads to these dementing illnesses. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm looking forward to where the research will go in the future around some of this. It'll be really interesting to see where that happens in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's really thanks to one thing I wanted to mention too with this research is I'm really just a researcher and a doctor, and it's really thanks to people like Anna Marie Hill, who I think you had a chance to meet, Dr. Stately, who's a member of Red Lake Nation, and Neil Henderson, who's a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, who really kind of allowed me to open the door and partner with the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa. And they're the ones who are really driving the ship and who own 100% everything of what we're doing, and who have the community advisors telling us what's important to focus on and what are things that are not important. But this issue of diet and diabetes and memory loss among elders is a really pressing problem, and one that I've been really grateful to be a part of, because it's really rewarding to feel like we're bringing new information that can hopefully help in the long run.
Nice.
Wow, this has been amazing, Dr. Stately and Dr. Mantyh. We got to do this again. This is unbelievable information. We have
I have so many more questions that I want to ask. So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be back. Thank you for having me. It was like I said, a genuine pleasure to see you again, Dr. Stately, and
you as well.
Thanks for having me, Robert and Haley.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, we can try and set up another meeting, because this is really unbelievable information, and it sounds like you're really in cutting edge of what's happening. I want to just give a big shout out and a big peeny gigi thank you for coming on. And Dr. Stately, I know your life is full, and I appreciate you coming on and helping out with this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. And Will, it's always great to see you. Hope we can spend some time together again in the near future. And yeah, you guys are doing amazing work. So on behalf of the community, thank you so much. Chimigwich, Binigigi, Jamia.
Congrats again on the Bush Fellowship.
Thank you.
Yeah, Miigwech for having me here. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Oh, wow.
Getting bus and train information in your language just got easier. Customers who call Metro Transit at 612-373-3333, again 612-373-3333, are able to select language options at the start of the call. To access information in Spanish, select option 2. For more information about other transit information tools, visit metrotransit.org/Spanish. That's metrotransit.org/Spanish.
Programming on Native Roots Radio is supported in part by MNsure. Looking for health insurance, but not sure where to start? MNsure has you covered. You can find discounts, compare private health plans, and see if you qualify for free or low-cost insurance. Plus, get help from an expert so you save on the coverage you need. Enroll online by December 18th for coverage starting January 1st. Get started today at mnsure.org. That's mnsure.org.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
It's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to struggle. And it's okay to ask for help. It's important that we support one another and work together to end the stigma so that we can start to tell a different story about mental health and well-being in our community. If you're looking for support for yourself or want to find resources for a loved one, visit makeitokay.org to get started. That's makeitokay.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show was supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Well, we are totally blessed, Haley, to have such amazing guests and reoccurring guests, too. I have to give, Dr. Stately a shout-out, State Senator Mary Kunish, Robert Lilligren, also your friend, State Representative Heather Keeler. I was going to see if we can jump there.
I was like, that dementia topic we were just on for the last 3 seconds.
I don't have dementia. I have a good memory, but it's short.
Yeah. You do say that a lot. So at least you remember that saying, Well, I just want to throw this little statistic out that we didn't get to because this was mind-blowing to me. 1 in 3 Native American elders will develop dementia in their lifetime. 1 in 3.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah.
So it's important we have these little conversations around it.
Yeah, and just a truth be known too, Haley being the crack producer that we have here at Native Roots Radio, there was a lot of questions that were we'd love to have them on again that you developed, and there's some amazing questions. But it always seems to me it's like phone calls. Now we don't get to take phone calls, and we tried that, and the basic thing that's really funny, Haley, is you can only do 1 or 2 phone calls a segment if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can be questions too, because you got to give person time to answer them.
Yeah. Yeah. People really run with certain answers, and thankful for it. I want all the information that we can get out there. But yeah, talking about dementia in our Native communities. And there's been a lot of different topics that I've seen. We get a newsletter emailed to us about different topics and Zoom meetings and webinars going on around different topics like this. And specifically for Native American Heritage Month, there's a lot more going on right now. So last Friday, I actually sat in on a Zoom meeting. It was titled Understanding Autism in Indigenous Communities. And it had speakers like Jim Warren and Jules Edwards. I know Jules is from our Minnesota community here. But a couple like these things I took notes on. They quoted, "We don't have a word for disability in our Indigenous languages." Wow. Kind of everyone has a role based on their gifts.
Interesting. And I like to point this out too, in the same vein, Haley, is that we don't have a word for goodbye either.
Right. Yeah, we don't have words for a lot of different things, honestly.
It's see you later. Goodbye is if you're passing away. And I remember the movie Skins. I don't know if you've seen that. It's an older classic Native movie. And at the end, he says goodbye to his brother. And he does pass away shortly thereafter. So it was a point made by by the director, the same guy that did Smoke Signals, and and then we love Smoke Signals. We can't stop talking about it. I know.
No, never. But yeah, going back to like autism, well, like just disabilities in general in our community, we didn't have a word for disability, that didn't exist in our traditional times. And kind of what they said in this Zoom meeting on autism is that like everyone needs help sometimes, and characteristics of autism were spiritual roles that were often seen to be very sacred. So just because you're different in how you think and do things, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And again, I'm thankful for these specific meetings tied around our Indigenous communities.
It's really interesting that you brought that up, because Wendy and I are doing a marathon on young Sheldon, and
Oh yeah, he has autism.
From The Big Bang Theory, and all those guys have their place, like you said. If they are medicated and reformed into some other things, they're not going to be as big as concentrating on things and big as genius on certain aspects of science, for them at least. So it's funny that you bring that up, because I love that show, and and you're right. A former student of mine won a scholarship to the University of Minnesota, full ride, and he had autism and still does, as a matter of fact. And he works in the sporting field. He is I know he worked for the Gophers, and I know he worked for the Lynx, and but he's still doing it, and it's amazing. It's just a different superhero tool.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking. It's a different skill set, and yeah, it's important to like recognize that in yourself and find like a lifestyle that helps best suit those, like having autism.
Well, everybody too. As you know, I'm a great idea guy, but crossing the T's and dotting the I's is not my forte.
Yeah, so you just got to find like what your strengths are, and it's
And
all
then
about
hire
like
people with the opposite strengths, right, Haley?
yeah, yeah, fill those blind spots, as they say.
Jeez. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone ever say that before, but I get it.
Yeah. Well, what did you do this weekend? I went to the round dance.
Yeah, I just took it easy. Again, trying to get rid of this cold. And it's funny, Wendy sent me a message just before the show started about people that are kind of doing the same thing that I am. It says, anyone else been sick for weeks, and it's not COVID, it's not the flu, and you've had headaches, sore throat, and cold, cough, and when you think you're getting better, just starts all over again. And
ooh,
that was a TikTok.
Yeah.
But
Oh, well, I'm sure it was. You.
I'll be sad when the government takes that down.
I know. But yeah, it's important when you're feeling sick to take that time, rest up, and keep your germs to yourself, please.
Yeah, exactly. As my other job I was talking about, well, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to come in tomorrow, because I'm getting over this. And they said, well, don't come or wear a mask. And I thought, I'm not going to go. So one more day of recovery, because it's funny, I have had a rebound back. It's weird.
Yeah, you said you were feeling better a little.
Yeah, but I don't know, as the night goes on, I get sick. I was down in the basement, and the basement in my house, and trying to organize, I got a really bad sore throat, and I had to stop. And what's conducive down there for a sore throat other than dust?
I don't know, probably moisture.
No, we're pretty dry down there.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I hope we are. I got all those treasures. I don't need them getting wet.
You got the whole museum down there that hopefully will go to me one day.
There you go. Especially, I don't think my kids are interested, so that's a good thought.
Oh no, I got first dibs on a lot.
Yeah, well, you better stop by again, because I got a son-in-law that comes down and picks through it a little bit, if you know what I mean.
I've heard.
Can I
I've
have
heard.
this?
Yeah, I gotta like go down there and hide some stuff. Or...
Yeah, or just take it with you. Wendy you'll be Wendy's hero.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, what else?
That's all I did. I was just trying to heal up.
Well, that's important.
Friday, I can't even tell you what I was going to do. I wanted to go to the powwow, the St. Paul Public School powwow, and then of course there was Minnesota Rise happened.
Native Rise.
Native Rise, and I missed that. And it looked like there was a good showing, good on them, and round dancing. I think we mixed our signals a little bit too. I didn't know you guys were going. And,
Yeah.
when you text me, my hair was all greasy and standing up and, working on the basement with the sore throat. And I went, oh no, I'm not going. I didn't remember we had that conversation. And then you reminded me we did on the radio, but radio's kind of pretend. No, I'm just kidding.
No, never. This is like truly us on the radio. So anyone listening, this is the real us. But yeah, the round dance was fun. And I'm sure coming up, we'll be talking about Thanksgiving and other important things that happened around this time.
Yeah, definitely. And I went and saw my hearing aid specialist. So I'm getting that all set up too.
Important. Good.
It really is, yeah. And how it works too. It's got a little microphone in the ear. It isn't like the old days where they slap a big old thing in your ear.
Well, that's fancy.
Yeah. I'm
bougie native.
Yeah. Are you going to go? Oh, yeah. You said you can't go. Take Aunt Barb. Jeez.
Oh, I'm taking her out to lunch.
Take her to the bougie Indians. She'll love it.
The Snotty Nose Red Kids will be at the Fine Line in Minneapolis this Thursday.
Yeah, coming up. Hey, if you're listening to the show, thank you very much, Big Peony Geegy. We're still here. We are the seventh generation.
And free at Leonard Peltier. Now.
When I